Happy Thursday night, everyone. That's right. I said happy Thursday night. That's where we're at. We have decided to do an impromptu live stream tonight. Watch along and review of the very first ever WCW Nitro that aired 30 years ago tonight. Just barely tonight, as we're almost into September 5th here, but September 4th, 1995 was the first ever Monday Nitro. It was, of course, the big debut of Lex Luger, who jumped ship from WWF to WCW basically in the middle of the night. He worked SummerSlam just a few days earlier. We watched that show, when? A couple weeks back, SummerSlam 1995. And as an 18-year-old kid, or a kid who was about to turn 18 in 2 days, I remember all of this very vividly, and I remember what led up to Luger leaving WWE and going to WCW, and as a matter of fact, I've told this story before. I knew he was going to WCW before he showed up on Nitro. Word was already out. It was already starting to be talked about. Something was fishy going on with WWE. They had split up the Allied Powers. Davey went heel. Even the night that Davey went heel, he referenced Luger being in Atlanta for some reason. And I remember the hotlines that I was listening to, one in particular, I'll never forget the quote, where the guy said, most folks believe that Luger could already be in WCW. And this was before SummerSlam. So Luger, the talk of Luger going to WCW was definitely out there in the sheets and on the hotlines and things like that, but it still didn't make it any less shocking when he showed up on the very first ever WCW Nitro. So I thought it would be fun since I kind of got a last-minute night off. It's the week after Labor Day, pretty slow at the restaurant, so I'm not really needed there every single day, which is kind of nice. And I wanted to make the most of this since we kind of had a free night. I know NFL kicks off tonight, so if you guys are watching that, I'm sorry, but I thought this might be something fun to do because, as you guys know, this coming Sunday, there's not going to be a watch-along, no classic watch-along. I have dinner plans with my family because I got a birthday this weekend. So there's not going to be a watch-along on Sunday, and I thought this would be a nice way to make up for that, sort of, if we just watch a very, very quick show. It's not long. WCW was only an hour long back in these days. And then if we stuck around and reviewed the show. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're also going to watch this on YouTube, not Peacock. If you go down to the description right now, I put a link to the WCW Vault channel episode of this show. So we're not going to use Peacock. We're going to use YouTube, and go down below for the link, or you can just search it yourself and get it pulled up. We're going to do this just like we do every Sunday. The runtime, according to YouTube, not Peacock, is 45 minutes and 4 seconds. So we'll hit play together here in just a couple minutes. That timer right there will begin to run. I've killed ads on this video. Not sure what kind of YouTube subscription you have, but if you have ads, you might get hit with ads on the Nitro, and that's what the timer is for, to sync up. So that's what we're going to do this evening. We're going to kind of bust out this quick episode of Monday Nitro, and then we're going to stick around and talk about it, and talk about the time and period and what was going on back in those days. And should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Just making sure I can be seen and heard and all that jazz while I get myself situated right here. Let me do some shout outs. Hellos, and again, I'm not expecting a huge audience. I just decided we would do this 2 hours ago. So I tried my best to put the announcement up on social media and over on the community tab here on YouTube as well. So hopefully you guys got a chance to see this and join us tonight for a little quick one to make up for us not having one on Sunday. And this will be like the third week in a row we haven't had a normal classic watch along because we had Forbidden Door. Then we had Clash in Paris the last 2 Sundays. So we were up here doing what? Clash of Champions and In Your House. Now we're going to do a WCW Monday Nitro. So these type of scheduling conflicts kind of give us a chance to knock out some different watch-alongs, some shorter ones and whatnot, and I thought that would be fun for this evening. So thanks to everyone who is here. If you guys are here, that means you pay attention to what the fuck I'm doing and saying, and you were able to catch that announcement and be up here. So thank you, Zane. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Melissa. Always good to see We Are Pro Wrestling in here. I know, man, 30 years since Nitro's debut, and next year marks 25 years since its finale. Gonna have to do a video next year too, because I'm pretty sure I did a 20-year video on the finale, and about 6 years ago, I did a This Day in History on this episode, and I pulled that video up earlier and kind of listened to a few minutes. It's pretty good. So check out my This Day in History tab from 2019, and I did a This Day in History on this Nitro, and I reviewed it and talked about it there as well. So this is kind of gonna be like a second review on this, but hey, it's the anniversary. 30 years is a long time, and I was just 3 months removed from graduating high school, and I was 2 days away from turning 18 when Lex Luger debuted debuted. So please, in the chat, let me know where you guys were. What were you doing? How old were you? Do you remember this at all? I remember it, and I remember being pretty pissed when I saw Luger walk out there because I just fucking knew it. And I had this feeling, about it, especially the way they utilized him at SummerSlam, the way he just kind of came out at the end, and, something was off. Something definitely felt off. So that just kind of confirmed the suspicions that I had already had about Luger jumping ship and going back to WCW, and that is what he did. And I remember it still vividly. It's been 30 years, and I still remember it. Shane is here as well. Shane Belfus, good to see you as well, or Belfus, I'm sorry. Right on. It gives you chills every damn time, I'm sure. Victor Colon is here. We got Spartan Sprinkles. That's right. You are watching football. A lot of y'all probably are. What's the game right now? The Chiefs and Chargers is what, tomorrow? And tonight is Cowboys-Eagles, right? So, yeah, if you're watching that, enjoy. Michael Cuomo, also good to see you, my friend. Let's see. All right, we got some friends in here. Good to see David Brown is here. Ajax Johnson, Matt Karcher, the Juliet is chiming in as well. Angie is here. How are your feet? How are your Achilles? How's everything, Angie? Hope you're doing well. AJ, always good to see you as well. Doug Unfunny is here. And the Juliet dropping in $5 for us. Tyson and Mayweather are going to fight each other. What timeline is this? I missed that. So Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather are going to box? Okay, yeah, we're definitely in a strange timeline, that's for sure. Domo, 1997, Alan Carter, Nick Musser, Ben Espinoza, and Juliet is handing out a channel membership to somebody. Looks like Crazy J is getting hooked up. Right on. Okay, yes, Victor, this is the very first ever episode of Nitro. That's why I have first ever right there on the screen for you to see. And this is a big one. So we're going to watch it. It's live from the Mall of America. And this is also the debut, I believe, if memory serves, help me out here, we're about to find out. If memory serves, though, I believe it's also the debut of Mongo McMichael in WCW, who was just in WWE doing all the Lawrence Taylor shit earlier on in the year during WrestleMania. And also, I'm pretty sure the debut of Scott Norton on the show as well. And, of course, I believe there's only 3 matches. I think it's Pillman, Liger Open, Sting and Flair, and then Hogan and Bossman, or Hogan and Bubba, I believe is the card for this one, and probably a Postomania spot in here somewhere too, and some people coming and going from the Gap and whatnot in the Mall of America in Minnesota. All right, let's do it. Jake, the original Tribal Chief. Good to see you too, man. You got enough time? Get your shit pulled up, hit play together, because we're about to do it right now. So we're going to do this just like Peacock's, no different. I'm just going to hit play over here on YouTube instead of hitting play on Peacock. And we're going to do the same thing with the timer. So we'll go 3, 2, 1, play, all right? And that's how we do it. All right. I'm ready to rock if you guys are. Here we go. Let's try this on YouTube. I think we've only done 2 watch-alongs on YouTube. We did a TNA one, I think. So this will mark, I believe, only the second watch-along on YouTube. And if WWE Library, their tape library, moves over here, like I'm hoping they do next year, it's going to make watch-alongs even easier. So let's do it. Here we go on the first ever WCW Monday Nitro, September 4th, 1995. 3, 2, 1, play. All right. This actually syncs up a little bit better than YouTube, or I'm sorry, than Peacock. YouTube does. So this is our first look at this WCW Nitro opening. I'm pretty sure Vader is in this. Yeah, that's him right there, yeah. And they take Vader out in a couple of weeks as he goes AWOL. And Luger winds up replacing him in War Games, I believe. That's what this whole thing is designed to set up. So they lost Vader and they gained Luger. The Mall of America. And there's Mongo. 30 years ago. You made it to the big leagues. Like, right off the bat, Eric was an insufferable little prick. Like, from the first sentence that he spoke on this fucking show. Rest in peace, Mongo. Got them Gorilla Monsoon glasses. Up, here's Bobby, too. Everybody calls him McMichaels. We got this one kid, Mongo. He's got a forehead like a drive-in movie, but he's a good shit, so we don't bust his chops too much. Name the movie. All right, Jushin Thunder Liger is the very first wrestler to make an entrance on Nitro. That's pretty cool. Terry Allen Jr., thanks for the $3. Brian Zane reviewed the show you saw? Probably. I'm sure Brian's done a review on this. I've done a review on this. This is going to be the second review I've done on this. We've talked about this show 100 times over the years, and I'm sure Brian has as well. Go subscribe to our buddy, Brian Zane over there. Does a good job. Does good stuff. Where the big boys play with each other. The only building big enough. A couple years later, they were in the Georgia Dome. I mean, they didn't sell tickets for this. How could you? And Flying Brian here in 1995 is still babyface. God, it would only be, what, 7 months and he'd be in WWE? Wild. Yeah, that's right. Pillman was out all that time, already injured, and then he'd get in the car accident after this. I do like the way they had the fans coming down the escalators and stuff. That was kind of cool. Jushin Liger just retired, what, 5 years ago? Maybe more? 2020? I'll never forget watching, I don't know if it was Dominion, I don't know where he had that like 10-bell salute. Oh, it was so good. It was after his final match. Oh, yeah, well, of course, yeah, he went to ECW before WWE. A lot of guys did that. So did Austin. Made a little pit stop there. So did Cactus. They all kind of stopped through on their way. Oh, what was that? That was a very ugly Hurricane Rana. Brian Pillman and Jushin Liger, first ever Nitro match in a mall. They're in a damn mall. Fucking Cinnabon right back there. I did see Luger making some progress on the walking. Good for him. DDP's been battling his own health issues, so we need to protect DDP at all costs. The world needs him healthy and happy. Surfboard. Pull him back. There you go. God, I have a rotator cuff injury, so whenever I see this, it just hurts. Hurts to watch. We got an MRI coming, I think, on October 8th. No surgery, please. I feel like right off the bat they're trying to establish like a Gorilla and Bobby dynamic with Mongo and Bobby. Like they were insulting each other right off the bat. Now, Nitro, another thing to remember here, pretty sure that Nitro ran unopposed here. Raw was off. So they opened up unopposed. And then the following week, I believe was taped because that's where they did like the Shawn and Sid IC match that was originally supposed to happen on SummerSlam. And I think next week is they do a one-on-one match between Hogan and Luger, which to me at the time blew my mind. I remember flipping channels that night. I remember turning on WCW and watching Hogan like pummel Luger, and just the fact that Hogan and Luger were in the ring. Hogan in the ring with born-again Hogan from WWE. My brain just couldn't comprehend it. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we saw guys jump ship before, but now, like, it's prime time Monday night, and they're going head-to-head. It was just different. It was different than your typical defections. Ugh! Ugly superplex. This match has not been great. Yeah, it was Shane. It probably wasn't the Dog Show. Dog Show usually preempted them in February. Summertime was U.S. Open tennis, which I believe is on right now, right? So the U.S. Open usually happens around the same time every year, and it was that case for WWE for a long time. Late August, early September, they would have preemptions due to tennis. I remember one year in the Attitude Era, they ran a commercial where the DX is banging and smashing like tennis rackets and stuff. And then WWE became so big and the ratings got so good, they were never a victim of preemptions. I believe after like the 90s, once it got into the 2000s, I think that was a thing of the past. But Shawn Michaels famously lost his smile in a preemption, a Dog Show preemption. Thursday, Raw Thursday. Now, that was a much better Hurricane Rana by Liger. Nick Patrick, I hate his counts. I crap on him every chance I get. He does that weird little fluttering thing with his arm that sometimes when you're watching as a fan, you couldn't even hear him hit the mat. Like you didn't know what count he was on. You couldn't tell. Twitchy motherfucker. Right, We Are Pro Wrestling. Yeah, once they went over to TNN Spike, there was nothing to preempt them. Where USA Network had those established agreements with the Dog Show and US Open, and WWE was second fiddle to them. But that's right. But then when they came back to USA Network in 2005, I'm sure that was written in. We ain't going to be preempted ever again. And I'm sure that was in the deal, in the homecoming deal. There we go. Pillman rolls him up for the win. So far, Nitro not off to a great start. Mad respect for Pillman and Luger, but not my favorite match I've ever seen from either guy. And Pillman just being just such a white meat babyface still is weird. I mean, he was a funny heel in the Hollywood Blondes, but this was hard to get used to. Or hard to look at, I should say, knowing what Pillman would go on to do over the next several months of his career, a couple years of his career. And Pillman is exactly, almost to the day, 25 months away from death. To the day. October 5th, 1997. Crazy. Like, if only he, like, we should go back in time and whisper in his ear, you got 25 months. Do whatever you got to do to stay with us. And doing a Sting and Ric Flair match on Nitro. On the first ever Nitro. The Great Train Store. I'll always remember that from the background of Luger's debut. I'm like, what is that? They sell model trains there? And we've got 4 levels of mall there. Oh, here we go. Pasta Mania. Like fast food, but pasta. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm guessing what you can build your own pastas and shit. Spaghetti, penne, linguine, fettuccine, angel hair, little marinara, al fresco, olive oil, aglio olio, carbonara, arrabbiata.
First time on TNT, I'm putting the WCW heavyweight title on the line, and with Pasta Mania running through my brain, who's gonna beat Big Bubba tonight, Hulkamaniacs?
Pasta Mania.
And when I'm done,
I want to see the menu. I want to see the
my Pasta Mania
Pasta Mania
WCW shirts off, brother.
menus.
Throw some of my Hulkaroos up there, and then I'm gonna body slam him again.
Van Espinosa Deadlock sent you here? What, they told you to come watch me? I don't think they did. Well, Tony and Pulse, though, they follow me and stuff, but
You better tighten up that waistline, brother.
I'd be surprised if they sent you here.
Swimming trim. I can eat my Pasta Mania, and what you gonna do in the Mall of America, brother, when Hulk Hogan, Pasta Mania, and all my Pasta Maniacs run wild?
You're not going to run on wild on me with your pasta.
What you gonna do? All right.
I remember this being just universally made fun of. I remember the Pasta Mania jokes in like 1995 and 1996. It was just so crazy. I mean, I suppose in theory it's not a horrible business idea. Hey, let's make like a pasta restaurant because pasta is one of the cheapest things you can make to sell for expensive. Italian restaurants have no excuse for not making money. I worked for an Italian once, and every time he put food in the window, he would go, 9 cents, 10 cents. He would tell me how much it cost him to make that bowl. 10 cents, we're charging $20. He was so proud of the inflated prices. Greg, 10 cents. Making money. Ric Flair back in Minnesota. He's a man called. So I want to know how did they just have the fans circulating through? Like it seems like those elevators or escalators, excuse me, are always full of people. All right, Sting is currently the U.S. champ. I'm not sure if I knew that. So we've got about a year. I think it would be about a year from now when Sting joined the NWO, or at least everybody thought he did. And then he started becoming Crow Sting. He'd start growing his hair out after this. Because when he started going up in the rafters, it was already dark or brown. And it was starting to get long. There he is, right out of the Great Train Store. What's with this shirt? Like a priest shirt. Who buys shirts like that? Whose shirts button like that? Luger chants. And Sting and Flair. It's just unabashed arrogance. Guys, it's just unabashed arrogance. That's all it is. What is he doing here? And this was like the little appetizer to what Hall and Nash would do. Because right off the bat here, you know, as we'll hear later from Luger, you know, I'm sick and tired of playing with little kids and Hogan, why don't you go back where you came from? You know, oh, you mean where you came from? Okay. You want to bring Macho and Beefcake and everybody else with us? Because if I'm going back, so are you. We all came from there. He's here to watch a match and do some shopping, that's all. I watched Sting and Flair wrestle at a house show in 1989. Terry Taylor was in that match. Arn Anderson. Oh, shit. Get the camera off him. I loved it. Or I didn't love it at the time, but I love it now looking back. But to me, Lex Luger, as a fan, Lex Luger was always a WCW guy anyway. You know, so in my mind, he was just going back to where he came from. Like when Hogan is like, go back to where you came from, you'll hear him say that later. It's like, dude, I was here longer than you. I mean, Flair and Luger and Hogan were all at WrestleMania 8. They were all in WWE. Luger debuted as the narcissist on Flair's last night in the company. Because that Raw match was already taped prior to that. So that was Rumble 93 was his last night. This match is much better than Pillman and Liger.
Tremendous action coming your way. WCW Monday Nitro on TNT, and this is where the big boys play.
As a fan, that drove me so nuts. Where the big boys play. Shut the fuck up. The only reason they were saying that is because WWE, one of their stars, literally looked like a child, namely Sean Waltman. That's where the sick and tired of playing with little kids line came from, was from the 1-2-3 Kid. And then what happened? The 1-2-3 Kid was in that very company just a few months later with his little video camera dancing around.
I can't believe you actually made a positive comment about the Stinger.
Oh. Bobby the Brain Heenan, too. A history with both those guys, Luger and Flair. Zane G, appreciate the 5, bro. In the early 90s, I used like the WWF Superstars cereal with the sweepstakes, winning a trip to WrestleMania 8. Oh, man. I don't think I had any WWE Superstar cereal ever. I had the ice cream bars, but that was it. I like the spinning Nitro or WCW logos. Flair loves this bump. Oh, there's Arn. Oh, yeah, Arn and Flair were kind of feuding, I think, right? Something's going on with them. I think they might even wrestle at Fall Brawl. Does Arn and Flair wrestle? That's suplex by Flair. Oh, okay. Cowboys Eagles has a weather delay. Nice. Now you guys can hop over here and watch Nitro with us. Hey, help me out for the NFL Impaired because I'm having trouble following everything. If the NFL game says it's being played on YouTube, where on YouTube is it being played? Do I need anything for it? Like, I think tomorrow night, the Chargers-Chiefs game, it says YouTube when I checked the schedule. But where on YouTube? On the NFL channel? Just on the NFL channel on YouTube? Do I need to pay for it or anything like that? Or is it YouTube TV? It's probably, is it YouTube TV? Or can I stream it? How does this work, guys? I don't know. And where do I watch the Red Zone channel? Do I have to NFL Network buy that, right? I haven't had the Red Zone channel in about 8 years. 8 or 9 years. But I used to subscribe every year. Big bridge here. Sting is so strong. Look at that. Jesus Christ. Prime Sting was just a specimen, man. I liked him so much more than the Ultimate Warrior. Like by eons. It wasn't even close. Big superplex. Yeah, I heard about the Red Zone channel having commercials. That's wild. Yeah, Fall Brawl, they enjoyed going to Winston-Salem. They were there a lot of years. The town is such a dump, too. I've been to Winston-Salem a few times. I have friends from there. Not a huge fan of the place. Certainly wouldn't go there on a vacation. There you go. Reverse that figure four. We all know how that hurts. Yeah, Sting and Flair on the first and last Nitro, as it should be. Okay, thank you, We Are Pro Wrestling. So I don't need... Okay, Arn is in there. I don't need YouTube TV to watch that, right? That's my big question. And I forget, I think we watched Fall Brawl 1995, so we've watched this match between Arn and... Oh, there we go. Between Arn and Flair. I feel like they eventually get back together. There we go. And Luger is now out of the aisleway. Gotcha. Thank you. Chiefs game is free. There he is. There's Norton right there. Oh, there, Mongo and Norton. Norton and McMichael. My God, I wouldn't mind putting some money down that shoot. Oh, there's Savage. Scott Norton. The dude is a beer keg with a head and limbs. All right, Macho wants a match right now. I feel like Savage almost fell off the ropes just then. Oh yeah, Sabu will debut the next week, I believe. Because I remember the night that Nitro debuted, I missed some of it. I was watching when Luger debuted, but I didn't see all of it. The following week's Nitro, I'm pretty sure I saw most of. Nice video package here. Oh, yeah, so Sabu's already been wrestling because they got footage of him right here from Saturday night, so he's already been there. So I guess he didn't technically debut, but he debuted on Nitro. Oh, that's right. They're doing international games all over hell and gone now. They're in Brazil. Mean Gene back in Minnesota. Mike Hill. Damn, Mike Hill from Alabama won a Harley Davidson. Hey, see, at least they're not calling him on the phone. Saturday night was still the flagship show up until this point. Who's that, Dick Slater? Yeah. Macho and Sting. The Blue Bloods. I mean, back then, all the big angles, they were all set up on Saturdays. I miss WCW Saturday night. I miss it when it was the flagship show. There was just a feeling you had watching on Saturday nights, especially in the summer. I can almost smell the chicken on the grill that my dad has outside on the deck while I'm inside in the living room watching WCW Saturday night.
But in Mr. Wall Street's estimation, the new generation is nothing more than the few generation. And that is why I'm here in WCW.
Another debut.
Because it is about power. It is about money. And right here where the greatest wrestlers in the world are Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Sting, Vader. Now you've added to the list Mr. Wall Street.
So they had a lot of debuts here.
The IRS is going to be watching me real close. That's fine.
This is great.
As you go down the road in the WCW, people are going to know for sure that Michael Wall Street is a real player.
So he referenced the new generation and IRS. He's got the dollar sign like fucking DiBiase. And I guess that's what they're showing here. Everybody's coming to WCW. Luger, M. Wall Street here. I mean, poor Boss Man has to wrestle on this shit. He went from Big Bubba to Boss Man, back to Bubba, after being a Guardian Angel and some other shit. And Hogan and Boss Man are rekindling their rivalry from 7 years earlier that started in 1988. It would last until about 1990 or 89, about a year. And watching Hogan and Boss Man be the main event of a Nitro was just so weird. It's a minor thing, but it always drove me nuts how two of WCW's corners had yellow turnbuckle pads and two of them had blue. It felt like it didn't feel like in sync. He was born and raised in the US of A. "30 years ago. Rest in peace, Hulk. Rest in peace, Ray Traylor. Rest in peace, Brian Pillman. Rest in peace, Mongo McMichael. Rest in peace, Pee Wee Anderson. Jimmy Hart's still with us. He'll live forever. Yeah, the Wall Street gimmick was stupid. It was just a spoof on WWE. I mean, they basically kept, he was already an established wrestler as Mike Rotundo, not only in WWE, but also in the NWA as well. So, like, the fact that they had to bring him back as a knockoff of his shitty WWE gimmick, how is that doing Mike Rotundo any favors at all? I always just thought it was so stupid, Like, Like, I thought the IRS character was stupid because he was already established, former multi-time tag team champion in the WWE before he ever won titles with DiBiase, and was a credible wrestler. I'm fine with you got to put a gimmick on him, but my God, IRS with suspenders and bullshit, and now he comes to WCW and he's essentially doing the same thing? Like, you want to keep the gimmick somewhat intact if it's good. But if it's not, why in the world would you want to... I don't know. WCW wasted a lot of money, I think, back in those days. And at some point, McMichael will start bringing that little chihuahua with him. All right, the title, by the way, is on the line here. So Hogan defended the title, I believe, unless it's a non-title match. I'm pretty sure this is a title match. He defended the World Heavyweight title on the first 2 Nitros because he puts the belt on the line against Luger next week. All the history between Bobby Heenan and Bossman is, or Hogan, or Heenan and Bossman is pretty funny. Right, yeah, he did the Wall Street gimmick with Alexander York, but I'm thinking even before that. I'm thinking like Varsity Club, where I believe he was just Mike Rotundo, right? Like from Syracuse, right? So I guess technically WWE would rip off Wall Street and then WCW would resurrect it. But either way, the gimmick is terrible in both companies. I mean, they got Kamala out there. I mean, Kamala is in the company. All the 80s stars are there. Oh, that was a terrible big boot by Hogan. Yeah, Wade, exactly. That was exactly my problem with WCW around this time and when they launched Nitro. And I'm like, all they're doing is rehashing matches and angles and propping up has-beens from previous. Everything was so in order, too. Like, think about the first ever match that Hogan had, that match with Flair. Who was there? Muhammad Ali, Mr. T, right? WrestleMania 1. Who was his next big feud after that? Vader. Where'd they blow it off? In a cage, just like WrestleMania 2. What happened after that? He feuded with the Giant, just like WrestleMania 3. I mean, this felt like WWF. You got Bobby on commentary. You got Jimmy Hart, Hulk Hogan, Beefcake, Savage, Luger, Kamala, Bossman. Everybody was there. How patriotic is Jimmy tonight, by the way? Big clothesline to Bubba and the cell. And the cell after. I'm going to go adjust my fan. 1 second. One of my fan pointing towards me because it's a little hot up in here. What's up, T? Tito's sleeping. Bobby Hernia. That's what Mongo is calling Bobby. Bobby Hernia. Oh, we missed. Missed the avalanche. You know what's crazy about that WrestleMania 9? Oh, there we go, where he's hulking up match. He's hulking up. That WrestleMania 9 match, Hogan and Beefcake against $1 Million Corporation, they were all in the NWO. Eventually, they would all be in. Maybe not all at the same time, but they were all in. Oh, he ate that boot. That boot did not look bad. Big leg drop. That's going to be it. I hated this cover by Hogan. The way he would cover guys like that. He would always be up. He would always be getting up before the 3 count. Disrespectful to his opponent. So disrespectful. Yeah, let's pose. Let's pose in the mall. Yeah, he loved to do the pat on the butt thing, too. Hogan was a big fan of that. Oh, here we go. Here comes, oh, my God, Sullivan. We got Beefer, and we've got Kamala. Oh, and we got Earthquake. And Ming. So check this out. This is a WWE brawl, and here's Luger. Luger's in the ring coming to save. Okay, they're definitely going to do the back. Yep, they're going to do the back thing. Yeah. And this was crazy. You have to understand the magnitude of this. Lex Luger, his whole gimmick in WWE was a replacement for Hogan. That's how simple-minded Vince McMahon was. If I don't have Hogan, let's not move on from that. Let's try to make another one that does the same shit, has blonde hair and muscles. So stupid. He was so massively out of touch. And so to see Luger here face-to-face with Hogan, it was mind-fucking me. I mean, this is a very crazy image to see for a 17.99999-year-old kid. Oh, they got to take a short time out, damn it. Now, Sting pretty much, if I remember correctly, kind of advocates for Lex. You know, Hogan doesn't trust him, Savage doesn't trust him, but Sting kind of does because of their history. And I think it's Sting that's really, that pushes for Lex in War Games. Yeah, muscular dystrophy. Let's take it down, brother. I'm into that. I'm all about a charity pay-per-view. Good for them. All right, so now they're all in the ring. Now Mean Gene is in there with all these WWE guys and Sting.
What are you doing here, Luger? You got no business in my backyard, Luger.
In his backyard.
I'm here. I'll make it clear right up front. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. People say that you're the #1 wrestler in the world today. You wear that WCW belt around your waist. And you know what? That makes you the only world's heavyweight
You see Mean Gene moving his lips.
to take that belt. That's why I'm here. Let me tell you something, Luger. Second, before you jump the gun, hold on just 1 second and let me finish. Then you'll have your piece. Just let me finish. I've been down the same roads as you. I've been where you've been. I've beaten the same people you've beaten. I am sick and tired of playing around with kids. I'm here.
Look at Mean Gene. Like, what are you talking about, kids? Where are the kids? Other than 1, 2, 3 Kid, what the fuck is he talking about? Bret Hart? You think Razor Ramon's a kid?
You see this, brother?
I think Razor Ramon could beat both your asses by himself in a shoot.
Title, brother. I'm the champion, and that's the way it's gonna stay forever and a day. I know where you've been, brother. You've been playing games. I'm gonna have to give you your due, brother. I know when you started and how long you've been at it, brother. But when you come in the WCW, when you get in Hulk Hogan's face, brother, there's thousands of Hulkamaniacs, brother, that are gonna stand behind me.
Hogan, Luger has already been there. When you come to WCW. He's already been to WCW. Spent more time there than you. Eat a dick.
You don't have to prove nothing to me, brother. You don't have to wait till next week. You don't have to wait till next month. Just stick that stinky palm of yours out, brother. Shake my hand, and I'll put the WCW title on the line next Monday on Monday Nitro right in Miami.
Right in Miami. There we go. I didn't even know it was in Miami. There you go. Next week. Now, that's the good way to do it because next week they're head-to-head with Raw for the first time ever. And it's going to be Hogan and Luger, which was, to me, just a wild match. I remember thinking, what is Luger going to wear? Is he going to wear that red, white, and blue shit? Yeah, he's wearing Guess jeans. He really is. He really is. I thought I saw like the brown Levi's patch back there, but that's definitely Guess jeans. Oh, no, the Chihuahua is there. He already has the Chihuahua. Dressed as a devil. Service merchandise. I remember that store, too. Got to tune in next week, guys. Unmitigated. Unabashed arrogance. Oh, we're out of time. Son of a bitch. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's a Guess logo. Totally. All right, man. Well, that was fun to watch. What's great about those old Nitros and Raws is they're very, very short. So let me just fix up the screen here, and we'll do a little kind of review on the first ever Monday Nitro. I'll go ahead and kill this timer here. We'll just talk a little bit about it, try to relive some memories here. But yeah, I wanted to kind of do a watch along, just to try to put myself back where I was 30 years ago when that show aired. And I remember, leading up to that, like I said earlier, with Luger debuting in WCW, that I had already been hearing rumblings of that. I was calling hotlines, and I remember, hearing, some sort of a report or a belief that Luger was already in WCW before SummerSlam aired. And I heard that rumor prior to, like literally the day before, or maybe the couple days before, the Raw where Davey Boy turned heel. And I remember all that shit racing through my mind. And it was a Raw where, I don't know, maybe Diesel was in there with Men on a Mission or something, and then Davey Boy came out, or maybe it was vice versa, but Davey came out to help Diesel, or Diesel came out to help Davey, and Davey, of course, had his own tag team partner in the Allied Powers, Lex Luger, and that night Davey got on the mic and said Lex is in Atlanta for some reason, and I had already heard that he might be in WCW. So then I hear that, and now Davey is out here by himself. He's offering himself up to be the partner for Diesel later in the night, and then you get to the main event, and Davey turns. And I remember thinking, why would they turn Davey? I mean, Luger must not be around if they're turning him. And then right after that, that must have been the go home to SummerSlam, I think, the go home show. And then at SummerSlam, you have Luger showing up in the main event just for like 10 seconds, and a card that is so shitty. They didn't have him in a match. They just had him come out there and run in. And I remember at that point thinking, okay, I guess everything's fine. He wouldn't still be there if he was going to WCW, or he wouldn't show up on SummerSlam if he was already in WCW. So Luger must not be going. I was kind of relieved that it seemed that way. But then, another few days go by, and then you got this debuting Nitro, and I remember when he walked out there just being like, I was shocked, but also like, well, people were thinking that, and of course, didn't know the story. I didn't know how it all worked. How can he be on SummerSlam and now be on WCW? And I didn't really know much about contracts at that time or anything like that. I was just kind of confused why that was happening at all. And then, of course, Luger shows up on the first ever Nitro, and we just saw at the end of the show how he sets up a championship match for the next week's Nitro. Because the first Nitro, the one we just watched here in the Mall of America, that was running unopposed with Raw. And they set up that Luger-Hogan match pretty brilliantly. Tune in next week for this. And they're going to be going up against a Raw that I'm pretty sure was taped. Because that was the Shawn Michaels and Sid IC match that was supposed to happen at SummerSlam. And on Nitro that night, I'll never forget Bischoff giving away the results and saying that Shawn Michaels knocked out the big guy with a super kick that he couldn't earn a green belt with at a local YMCA. And I'll never forget that line. And I'm like, that little motherfucker, and he's still like that. He's such a worm. Bischoff is a petulant child, stick up his ass, mind of an anger boy, and he's no different. He's just an insufferable little fucking prick, and he always has been. And it's funny when they opened up this Nitro here, welcome to the big time, McMichael. He just right off the bat, he's just starting, just coming out swinging, on WWE, giving away the results and just being very, very, very aggressive. And how'd that work out? But it was crazy. It was a crazy time because WCW's flagship show back in those days was WCW Saturday Night. So things were shifting to Monday nights now. And, even with WWE before Raw came around, it was the weekend shows. And so the business was changing like literally before our very eyes. How we consumed pro wrestling was changing. Usually weekends, Saturday mornings, Saturday nights was wrestling time. Whether it be WWE Superstars, Saturday night's main event, WCW Saturday night. On Sundays, you've got your wrestling challenges, you've got your WCW Worldwides and all that shit. And all these shows, weekends was where you watched wrestling. And then here, right literally at this time, the weekend shows then started slowly transitioning into recap shows for what we saw on Monday nights. WCW would still have Saturday night going and whatnot, but, WWE had Mania and Live Wire and Action Zone and all that shit, which a lot of times just kind of recapped, what we saw and then, focused on a couple of feature matches really. But Monday nights became the place to be for pro wrestling. And now WCW, WWE head-to-head on Mondays starting in 1995. And it was just crazy to kind of live through that because like I said, I was, just about to be 18 years old, and everything that I had watched up until this point, this was very different. And it was kind of just dipping our toes in the water to the changes that would come, because I'm glad that we had the Luger thing before what we would have in 1996, because that might have blown my mind as a fan, but the Luger thing was crazy enough. But then after the Luger thing happened, you fast forward another 8 months, 9 months, 7, 8 months, whatever it is, and now you got Hall and Nash coming over, and that whole thing was bizarre, and watching them come in. And I don't know if my brain could have handled the formation of the NWO without being able to deal with Luger first. That was just warming my brain up to the crazy shit and the changes we were about to see in pro wrestling. This was all the start of it. 30 years ago tonight. A lot of people point to the outsiders, and their contracts changing the business and guaranteed money and the formation of the NWO, along with WWE getting Austin on the map around the same time, that signified a big change in the industry, and it did. But really, it all started here. None of that shit could have happened without this happening first. And that's why I think it's so significant. And 30 years, man. That's 10 years, 3 times. That's a long fucking time. And you think about where all these people are in their lives now. A lot of them are passed away. Luger is still with us, doing very well, after many, many years of not doing so well. And it's just crazy how, this, to me as a fan, can still feel like yesterday a lot, even though it was so long ago. A lot of my memories of this stuff are very, very vivid. And those early days of Nitro too, like, I've talked about Bischoff. He always tells the story of, this supposed meeting he had with Ted Turner, and Ted talking to the executives and saying, give Eric 2 hours every Monday night on TNT. Well, how long was that show we just watched? It was 45 minutes. It was an hour long with commercials. As a matter of fact, WCW stayed an hour long all the way up until Scott Hall's debut the following year. Now, Scott Hall's debut, I'm pretty sure, is the first official 2-hour Nitro, but I think they had some overruns here and there. They might have gone slightly over an hour a few times, but I don't believe, you can check my facts on this, I don't believe that there was a 2-hour Nitro prior to Scott Hall's debut. So when Hall debuted, now you're getting 2-hour shows. Now the formation of the NWO, and that summer of 96 was all wild, and you had to lay the groundwork. You had to put that 2 feet of clay down before you fill up the pond with water, and that's what they were doing here, just laying that down of just, and getting, and me as a fan becoming used to these type of things being a reality. And you can't, you people in the chat who are my age are the only ones that can really, back me up on this. You're not going to be able to understand what this felt like if you weren't there. You just weren't, because it was so surreal, I suppose, to watch that stuff. Even though we had seen defections, Savage jumping to WCW was really tough. I feel like Savage prepared me for Luger. So there was always something that would kind of precede it or prepare you for how much crazier it would get. And Hogan going to WCW was crazy. Savage following him was crazy. Watching Kamala, Big Boss Man, Earthquake, Beefcake, every other cake you can imagine, coming from WWE, filling up the WCW pool. But then when you have a show that's live on prime time and somebody showing up unannounced, because we knew Savage was coming in, we knew Hogan was coming in. Those two big ones were kind of pre-announced. I don't remember the complete circumstances of Savage when he jumped in 1994. I remember his first night on Saturday night, but much like Hogan, I'm pretty sure they were talking about him before he got there. Where Luger, there was no mention of him at all. Closest thing we got to a Luger mention is a Liger mention in the opening match. So Luger walking right out there, and now this is Monday night. This is live, it ain't Memorex. This is happening in real time. And then watching them set up another match for the following week and just watching now what Nitro was going to be, because this first Nitro was not a very good example of what Nitro would be. The following week, they're going to be in an arena. Here on this first Nitro, they still had the Saturday night ring. Did you notice that? The yellow and the blue turnbuckle pads, the bright blue mat, the bright blue mats on the outside of the ring. Next week on Nitro, that's going to be the official debut of how it's going to look. They're going to have that black apron with the red Nitro logo. They're going to have the gray wrestling mat and the gray mats on the outside of the ring, black ring posts, black buckles, right? So Nitro, and of course the set, which we didn't see here in the Mall of America either. They would have that nice Nitro set, which I still miss, to this day. Even though WCW drove me nuts, there's something very nostalgic about that old school setup of WCW. And so it wasn't until the following week that we were going to see what that show looked like. And early on in Raw's years, those Manhattan Center shows were really good, but Raw has now devolved into running really, really small buildings and taping 4 shows at a time. As I believe the night after SummerSlam, they taped the next 4 weeks of TV. And that's the Shawn and Sid match that you're going to get next week when they run head-to-head with that live Nitro. So Nitro and WCW had all the momentum. And then you had Bischoff knowing that, hey, I can just give away the results of these guys over there. And the war has begun, But Bischoff has been known to rewrite history a lot. That whole thing about him getting 2 hours every Monday night is bullshit, because they only got an hour for nearly the first year. He also talks about, I've mentioned this over and over again too, whenever he talks about the birth of Nitro, or when he talks about how he took over as the executive producer. He said this over and over in so many podcasts and interviews and those stupid DVDs. He says, I look at WWE's product and I see a very childish, very cartoony type of product with silly characters. Their product is very cartoony. I wanted mine to be more realistic. No, you didn't. That is a lie. That is a lie. You absolutely did not try to make your product more realistic, at least not at first. Because look at some of the shit we saw just on this Nitro alone. Who ran out there? The Zodiac, Kamala, the entire Dungeon of Doom, the Taskmaster. You've got Avalanche out there. You got M Wall Street. You've got all these silly ass fucking gimmicks. They were just as silly as WWE. You know, your Johnny B. Bads and your Jean-Pierre Levesque, or Jean-Paul Levesque, PN News. And my God, just think of all the stupid ass gimmicks they had. Your Big Joshes and fuck. You just go on and on. You can just go on and on and on. There was nothing different about WCW's wrestling characters than WWE. They were all stupid. WWE had plumbers, you know, and Mounties and whatnot, and WCW had Taskmasters. It was all, it's not hot. You know, they think of the Hogan going into that Dungeon of Doom and feeling the waterfall that's not hot. You know, how is that any less stupid than anything WWE had going on at the time? You give me T.L. Hopper licking a fucking toilet plunger, and it's not as dumb as that. So this idea that they were so ahead of the game here is horseshit. They were mimicking WWE. They had no ability to create compelling characters on their own. They used people that were already established from yesterday. Kamala, One Man Gang, the other one, Big Boss Man, Earthquake, all the big guys. You had Haku in there, Jimmy Hart, Beefcake. The list goes on and on. Sting is the only one. You know, at the end of that Nitro, the first Nitro, you know, Hogan is telling Luger to go back where he came from. And everybody in the ring with Luger came from there, including Hogan. The only one who didn't is Sting. Luger's in there with Hogan, Savage, Mean Gene, Ric Flair. And Hogan's like, you come into WCW, brother. I'm like, no, you're the one that came into WCW. You just got there a year ago. Luger spent years in the NWA and WCW, and now you're going to act like he's walking into your neighborhood? Get the fuck out of here, Hulk Hogan. So all these things drove me nuts at the time as a fan. I'm like, what is Hogan talking about? His backyard. This is just the place you currently are stealing checks from. That's all. This is the current place you're ripping off. That's all. You know, and Luger was there a lot longer than you were. So I've always talked about the 90s, the way the talent shuffled, and how interesting I thought it was, and how you could see how both companies would use the respective talents. And when you see WCW here in 95 with all of those names mentioned, think about those people in WWE. Think about Kamala in WWE compared to WCW. Think about the Big Boss Man in WWE compared to Big Bubba in the NWA. That one might be a little closer, but it's still Boss Man in my mind. You know, think about Beefcake, the Barber, compared to the Zodiac and the Booty Man and the Man with No Name and the Butcher and all that shit. Think about them individually in WWE in the 80s, and then think about their 1990s counterparts in WCW. There's no comparison. You know, WWE made those gimmicks feel like big deals. When I was a kid, I was scared shitless of Kamala. Kamala made me laugh in WCW, you know, and that's the way it was, you know, with all of those guys. And then when you flip the coin and you look over at WWE, especially in 96, I always said 96 WWE is just WCW. It's Dustin Rhodes, Vader, Cactus Jack, the Stone Cold, Brian Pillman, Johnny B. Bad. Who am I missing? There's lots more. You know, there's lots more than just this. But all of these wrestlers who were in WCW becoming established and became established stars there were now in WWE. And I thought WWE was, in some of those cases, not all, but in a lot of them, were doing a better job of accentuating the positives that they had, you know, in the other company. You know, and they didn't do that with everybody. It took a while for Regal to, you know, kind of become somebody you would take seriously and whatnot. So it wasn't all good, but for the most part, I always felt that overall, not in every single case, but overall for the majority of the time, WWE was better at that when it comes to focusing or accentuating the positives in a wrestler. Sometimes they completely shit the bed. Stone Cold Steve Austin was almost Fang McFrost. So I'm not saying WCW or WWE is geniuses by any means. They are not. But compared to WCW, I thought they were miles ahead of them. For as dumb as WWE is and was and still is at times, WCW I thought was 100 times worse, even when they were on top. You hear some of the shoot interviews, you hear Hall and Nash talk about this when the NWO was riding strong. You know, some of the head-scratching shit that was going on behind the scenes, but, you know, to the mainstream audience, that didn't matter. Nitros were still exciting, and it was fun to throw trash in the ring at the NWO, and that stuff was just super over. And I think the NWO's theme song was as important to them as Austin's theme song was important to him. Like, they are, you know, two of the most recognizable themes, I think, from that era. And all of that was what was kind of covering up some of the disarray that might have been going on behind the scenes and some of the stupidity that was going on behind the scenes that eventually would catch up with them and would kill them. You know, but even when they were riding strong, I still felt like WWE had a better grasp on storyline development and things like that. And, you know, and then you fast forward to 1997 and the Hart Foundation story was wonderful, and what WCW was doing was starting to feel stale, you know, but all that, those ups and downs and the road through these Monday Night Wars that would eventually end in 2001, it was all born right here on September 4th, 1995, 3 decades ago, literally to the day. And you always got to sometimes pause, I think, you know, whenever I have time anyway, and try to acknowledge these type of anniversaries and these type of milestones, because especially if you remember where you were, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, the last 3 decades that I've lived through, and man, I've been through a lot between now and back then. All the things that have happened in our lives between then and now is wild. So that's why I wanted to come up here tonight and just talk to a small audience about my memories of September 4th, 1995. I still had my my graduation tassel from high school hanging in my rearview mirror in my car. Oh my God, what a time. What a time. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to read some of your comments here in the chat. I want to thank the Juliet. Looks like she sent out another channel membership to Wee Almighty. Welcome to the family, Wee Almighty. Incidentally, all of you members, go check out the community tab. I put up a members only post yesterday where I wanted you guys to drop in any questions you might have or anything you might want me to discuss or mention in our podcast on Saturday. We're going to do our first Saturday Night's Greg event this coming Saturday. We're moving Saturday podcasts a little bit later in the night, and we're going to give ourselves more time to talk. I've been trying to fit everything into 2 hours. It's been a big pain in the butt, so I'm going to start taking Saturday nights off, give ourselves more time to talk about these things, and then I can interact with you guys more and allow you guys to bring up topics or ask questions or anything like that. So if you are a member, there's a post right up right now over in the community tab. You can say your piece in there, and if whatever you're asking me to talk about is relevant enough, I will bring it up, or we'll talk about it on Saturday, and I will mention you by name. Now, you don't have to worry about telling me to talk about AJ Lee and WrestlePalooza All Out moving to an earlier time in the day. All the big stories we're going to cover. But sometimes there's side stories or stories I don't give a shit about, or something might have happened on NXT that I didn't see, or Ring of Honor perhaps, or just anything. Or if you just have a standard question. Hey, Greg, who do you think would win in a match between Papa Shango and Ming or something? I don't know. Anything that you can think of you want to just throw out there, we'll start doing that on Saturdays. Yes, We Are Pro Wrestling. 23 months later, August 4th, 1997, Hogan and Lex have that big match on Nitro for the world title, which Lex wins, and that's a big moment. Nearly 2 years later, he wins the championship. I watched that night and then would, drop it right back to him. And I forget, we've watched either that Nitro or we've probably watched Road Wild. That's what it was. I think we watched Road Wild in 97 when I think Lex dropped the belt back to him. But that was a big moment on Nitro. Again, that's another good example of these little precursors. And I mention that all the time. The Luger title win kind of reminds you of the Goldberg title win, but you got Luger's first, and we got that first moment. And what's interesting, another fun fact here, correct me if I'm wrong, We Are Pro Wrestling, another interesting fact about that Hogan and Lex Luger match from August 4th, 1997, as I believe it was in the Palace of Auburn Hills, which was the site of SummerSlam 1993, where Lex Luger got his title shot against Yokozuna and didn't win the title, but celebrated like he did. So this was an opportunity for him to actually win the championship and celebrate with it. So yeah, 2 years later, that match would go down, and Luger was the hero that night, and he was over. He was super over. I never liked Luger at the time. You know, I'm rooting hard for him now. I was happy to see him go into the Hall of Fame. I'm so thrilled that he's upright and he's walking, and I'll never forget making eye contact with him at WrestleCon a couple years ago because I had a Miss Elizabeth shirt, and his eyes just went right to it. I saw him looking at my shirt, and I just kind of looked at him, and it's a nice little moment there. But at the time, I wasn't a big fan of Luger, so I didn't care that he was gone from WWE, but I was getting a little bit alarmed with how many people were just jumping and taking the money, and, you know, who was going to be next. And that would continue all through 96, and WCW just took everybody. And then Hall and Nash and 1-2-3 Kid would all leave. So then it was up to WWE in 1996 to now take the stars that WCW had and turn them into stars. You know, WCW was taking established stars that had already reached their ceiling. There's nowhere, you can't get any higher than where they've been. You know, how is Savage and Hogan going to exceed what they did in WWE? How are they going to exceed the Pontiac Silverdome, you know, in WCW? They're not going to be able to do anything like that, but WWE can take your Austins and take your Cactuses and maybe even your Dustins and whoever else and turn them into something, along with your Glenn Jacobs and your Adam Copelands and your Christian Cages and everybody else that they were able to create and stars they were able to make. Same thing with ECW. They take Dudleys and they bring them to the next level. And I just felt like at the time they were better at that. And WCW was relying on the past success without using any of their own, you know, creative knowledge at all. And that just wasn't going to be a winning formula. And it only lasted 6 years. 6 years is not very long. Next month. But isn't the first ever Nitro, or have we already hit there? Has Dynamite already surpassed Nitro? I think it has. It's about to. It was only like super hot there for a couple of years, you know. But if you're not gonna, when you rely on one thing and all your eggs are in one basket, like how could you ever expect them to really long-term compete with WWE? WWE's strategy was just to survive. They'll punch themselves out. You know, in the end, we're better at doing this than they are, and we know that. You know, they just had to like weather that storm. And it was touch and go for a while. WCW was this fucking close. I mean, an ass hair away from winning that war. It couldn't have been any closer. I mean, WWE was nearly drowning in the water. And they got saved at the last minute by Tyson and Austin. Last minute rescue. But man, it was looking bleak. It was looking bleak. But yeah, anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I just wanted to pop up, take advantage of a night off because I wasn't here for a Raw review because all Raws and everything has been so weird timed right now. I feel like I haven't been up here a whole lot. So we'll have a big podcast on Saturday. We will catch up on everything. So we'll be up here for a nice birthday pod on Saturday. And then, like I said, there will be no watch along on Sunday because I've got plans. So anyway, we will try, though, however, to be here Monday night to talk about Raw. Because we could have a lot to talk about on Monday night as well. We're probably going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow or on Saturday for the podcast because tomorrow it is rumored that AJ Lee could very well be coming back to WWE, or she is coming back to WWE. We already know that. But it still remains to be seen if she... Oh, yeah, and Zane G, you sent me 5... earlier asking about AJ Lee. That's right. I'm looking at the super chats now. And you were asking about AJ Lee earlier on in the night. If I would I have her on the Go Home Raw or at the actual event or tomorrow night? I don't know. But with Punk asking Pierce, where is SmackDown? And Pierce goes Chicago. And then what Punk told Becky that he's got backup. It feels like she's coming out tomorrow on SmackDown. But if she's not, I feel like you got to bring her out because if you bring her on the Go Home Raw, that's like, what, still 2 weeks away? Over 2 weeks away? So I think the cat is out of the bag at this point. Even WWE's Twitter account for their shop, for WWE Shop, spoiled the AJ Lee return. There's a lot of fans like, why can't we just be surprised? I'm like, oh, stop it with that shit. Will you guys knock it off? The calendar says 2025. Time is moving forwards, not backwards. It's never going to be the time period where we didn't know shit was going to happen. If you don't want to be spoiled, throw this into a wood chipper and go live in the forest, because that's the only way you're not going to get spoiled. So, man, there was some bitching. I wish we could be surprised. Hey, Junior, it ain't going to happen. What, do you not understand the world you're living in? You have to literally crawl under a rock if you don't want to be spoiled. You're going to be spoiled, and it will never, ever stop. If you ever think you're going to one day live a life where nothing's going to get spoiled, nah. You're going to get spoiled. And spoiling will never stop unless you throw this fucking thing away. So all the fans complaining that we already know. You couldn't tell that from Becky interfering at Clash of Champions and then paintbrushing the fuck out of CM Punk on Monday Night Raw, and then Punk saying I've got backup and the next show is in his hometown. You can't put that together? Come on, fans. Jesus Christ. So anyway, I don't know when AJ Lee is coming back, but she's definitely coming back. And I guess it's going to be AJ and Punk against Becky and Seth at Palooza. Fun times. All right, guys, have a great rest of your Thursday night. Thanks for hanging out with me this evening for our brief little watch-along, impromptu watch-along. It's always fun to do an impromptu watch-along and an impromptu review, but today's a big day, 30th anniversary of the business changing. So how could we not come up here and talk about it? You know what? We'll probably be back to do some sort of watch-along and review or split-screen watch-along of the final Nitro and the WWE and WCW simulcast. Maybe we will schedule that for March on the 25th anniversary, because when I did my 20th anniversary of the final Nitro, I recorded it with my volume way down by accident and I didn't know. So, or maybe it was a live stream. So when you go back and watch that, you have to really turn up the volume to hear me, and it's bugged me forever. So I have a chance to make that right. Next year, at the end of March, we will do a 25th anniversary of the final ever Nitro. Right on, boys and girls. Thanks again. I will be catching y'all on Saturday for the podcast. By the way, we are going to be going live for the podcast on Saturday at, let me remember, 6 Eastern. No, that's wrong. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. So this will be halfway through Collision. The second half of Collision is going to go head-to-head with the first portion of our podcast. I feel like that's the best time. I feel like if I wait till after Collision, that's too long. And I don't want to go head-to-head with it right when Collision starts. So I feel like a 9 p.m. Eastern podcast will be nice. We'll probably wrap up every week right before midnight. It's Saturday night. You guys can all stay up, hang out on Saturday nights with me, and be the nerds that we are. And that's going to be the plan going forward. And then on nights that I do have to go into the restaurant and work on Saturdays, we do the wingies. We do the we'll revert back to the daytime pod. So if it's a daytime one, it'll be wingies. If it's a nighttime one, it'll be Saturday night's Greg event. And that all starts this coming Saturday. And I should have a link up for you, maybe even tonight, but I might want to wait because if AJ comes back on SmackDown tomorrow, that's going to have to be on the thumbnail. So probably tomorrow night is when you'll get a link for Saturday's podcast. All right, guys, I will be catching you in a couple days. Have a good night. Peace.